Hi, my name is Lukaza Branfman-Verissimo, and I'm kind of treating this talk like a poem. I've been doing a lot of writing and a lot of research this past 2 years, so if you see me glance down, it's because I'm reading from prepared text. Rituals here is kind of the 2 words that hold this practice and hold this time together, hold the thesis show that I've prepared that's up at the Anderson Gallery till Friday. And it's kind of like an alternative title in which I'm also thinking of just like holding all of this work, including my written work. Thank you all for being here tonight. I'm zooming in from occupied Powhatan land, also known as Richmond, Virginia, here at Virginia Colonizer University. Roots and webs and nets and branches and bulletin boards and banners and newsletters and mutual aid text threads and kin and caretakers and porches and poems of today and spaces of survival. Webs, Black futures are past, present, future. Nets, organizing structures found in the natural world, community organizing spaces, and the ways community gets built. Branches, placemaking. Newsletters, living and breathing history making. Banners, text and patterns equal our new language. Mutual aid text threads, pedagogies of care and abolition. Kin and caretakers, queer, trans, Black, Indigenous, people of color kinship. Porches, history of our Black diaspora passed down through our hands, through channels of activists. Bulletin boards, community-based spaces, tools and forms of resistance. Spaces of survival, creating sanctuary. Roots, bibliography, poems of today, storytelling, collecting as our archival tool. Rituals here, a 4-node project. Here, people, places, and archive. When a protest banner is held by many in the streets, it becomes a curtain for the performance and embodiment of resistance, liberation, protest. When a piece of fabric is unrolled onto a wooden table, it becomes a tablecloth. Next comes the dishes, food, and people. A meal is about to be shared. A conversation is about to begin. When many strings are knotted and tied together, they become a net, a basket, a holder. Nets for carrying, nets for resting on, nets to trap and transport. When the claiming of safe spaces becomes essential to survival, chosen communities, neighbors, friends, and lovers come together and become that needed space. This web is a space for holding, for creating safety and dialogue, an invitation to work within it, around it, because of it. Becoming and echoing forms and structures, patterns, and ways that Black, brown, Indigenous, queer, trans, gender nonconforming people of color form kinship, radical community, spaces of survival, and dialogues rooted in resistance. Roots and webs and nets and branches and bulletin boards and banners and newsletters and mutual aid and kin and caretakers and porches. poems of today and spaces of survival and underground roots and mycelium and bacteria and in between, and collectivity and utopia and the commons and diaspora and nodes and pods and homes and land and quilts and knots and mesh. Compost and polyrhythm and plurality and poetics and worlding and weaving and affirming and co-learning and co-breathing and friendship. And patterns and kinship and flocking and Black futurity and liberation and generosity and multitudes and yellow and sanctuary. Black matters are spatial matters, says Catherine McKittrick. Edges as strategy, says Legacy Russell. Walls turned sideways are bridges, says Angela Davis. How do you propagate care? We lend our power to each other's spells, says Akweke Emezi. Although sometimes it feels like my work is tethered to every piece of text I have chosen to hold on to, I always think about the niche archives, libraries, and collections that specialize in marginalized histories, such as queer history, lesbian history, Afro-Latina history, resistance history, political posters, etc., as an ecosystem of community that we get to peer into and learn from. Our histories don't always make it into books. Sometimes they get passed down and recorded on tapes or through pamphlets and lived experiences and homes and passed down through song. But when they get to become a multiple, like a book or a poster, that ecosystem gets a little bit bigger. Roots feel like generosity. Sharing is at the root because that is how we learn of each other. I will add that I don't think written text is the only form of history to be centered. Maybe the best part of those archives are the objects, pins, t-shirts, ephemera, and photography, holding just as much or more importance as the written story. In a way, this whole project is an archive, a close look on my practice and embodiment, living, breathing, storytelling space. Part 1, setting the table. Part 2, Bridge Through My Window by Audre Lorde, page 184. Part 3, 6 things I also imagine at this meal with us. Part 4, Until Then. I'm imagining us all at a table. Maybe this long table I am sitting at right now, feeding each other long lists of now, long lists of poems, love letters, recipes of resistance, hot tea, pickles, time, networks of chosen family, dance parties, really sweaty ones, seawater, the most beautiful fall day, snacks, 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 a world that doesn't rely on policing and surveillance. Sustenance, survival, and nourishment. My friends and loved ones that I haven't met yet, and my ancestors, and you, and my chosen siblings and fellow kin, all at this table. Sustenance for the long haul. Beauty always, even with the anger. Survival, long lives. Continual strength to keep fighting. Nourishment, the taste of liberation, freeing them all, and learning from our resilient roots. A candle is lit. Let's eat. All this work should be light, made with paper and fabric, both found, made with time and resistance, both collective. All this work fits on this cart, on this active altar. All this work is my studio, and all this work is the work. All this work is tapes with recordings of Augustine and me and Amelia and Kimmy and Stephen and Marcel and Sarah. All this work are my ingredients: library, broom, ladder, paper, zines, tape, enamel cups, candles, oranges, mangoes, kinship, lovers, neighbors, seeds. All this work are objects for rituals and learning and teaching, and all this work is made by us for us. This active altar is a cart that lives in the lithography room, stones that hold history. This altar goes with, it goes in. All this work is actively honoring, actively being still and quiet and helping us breathe. All this work engulfs these white walls and asks for universities and galleries and walls to fall. All this work should fit onto this cart and get wheeled into the streets. Black dreams matter. Black dreams matter. Black dreams matter. Defend Black trans futures. Defend Black trans futures. Defend Black trans futures. Fists raise high. Fists raise high. Fists raise high. People, friends, roommates, kin, beloveds, artists, poets, movement workers, Ty Little, Ayana Zaire Cotton, Amaris Carreras, Augustine Zegars. These collaborators support the web, support and make the work, are the work. These collaborators reflect and hold this time. These collaborators are windows, my viewfinder, into and with Richmond. Body Poem 1. Video projection, Canvas, Ty Little, 2022. Psychopha artifacts, ceramic vessels, book, Ayana Zaire Cotton, excavated 2020 to 2022. I'm sorry I spilled my tea. Digital photograph, Amaris Carreras, 2022. Seed, submerge, scent vials, recording of a script, bottle with diluted scent. Augustine Zegars, 2021 to 2022. Place a drop on your wrist to smell. Roots and webs and nets and branches and bulletin boards and banners and newsletters and mutual aid text threads and kin and caretakers and porches and poems of today and spaces of survival. Thank you so much. Rituals Here is an ongoing project. We have an event that will be happening over Zoom tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, a conversation between myself and Marta Rodriguez Malik. You can find all that info and the Zoom link through either our Instagram or this URL. And then there'll be continued programming until May 12th. And at May 12th, we'll mark our kind of culminating for the spring iteration of Rituals Here, where we'll have a free giveaway of a publication that's getting created from this project. Yeah, thank you so much for witnessing and being here.